Let's talk about the best change that the One Day TV show made from the book, and that is to do with the ending of the book. Very obvious spoilers going into this video. If you don't know the story of One Day and you want to be surprised, please don't watch on. Save it, come back later, don't watch on. You'll just save yourself. So for those of you who have been through the trenches or don't care about spoiler warnings, we know that Emma dies at the end of the book, and then there are 3 or 4 years that we get to see afterwards of Dexter dealing with the grief. And the timelines got slightly mixed up in the show, and we lost a few years, and so we had to gain a few years at the end, but I don't think that negatively affected the show in any way whatsoever. Like, there's 1 year really early on where Dexter's in India right after they graduate from Edinburgh, and he sends Emma a letter basically telling her that he wants her to come here because he actually wants her near him all the time. And it's a very romantic, very heartfelt letter, and it's beautifully written, and it just shows that Dexter has always wanted Emma around him, even if he didn't realize it. But I do think we get that sense in the show anyway, so I don't think it's missing as much, but the letter itself is really beautiful. Back to the ending. The best change that the show made from the book, other than keeping Emma alive and letting them live happily ever after, was that in the book, about 2 years after Emma dies, more like 1.5 years actually, Dexter's already in a new relationship with another person. And this woman, Maddie, worked at his shop as the manager, and we saw her very briefly in the show, but they don't form a relationship in the show. And in the book, it's portrayed as a very gentle, very sweet, very healing relationship for Dexter, and they essentially end up together. And by that, I don't mean that they're soulmates, they're going to spend the rest of their lives together, because the point of this book was all about right person, wrong time. And I think in the book for Dexter, Maddie at the very end was the right person for him at the right time. But it wasn't needed. And I think the change the show made was an incredibly important development for Dexter's character, because he is someone who hinges so much of himself and so much of his own stability on the person he's closest to. And the majority of the time, it is someone he's in a relationship with. And I'm including Emma in that even throughout the whole book. Because let's be honest, these two were in a situationship for the entirety of the book. But I think this part of Dexter's character is especially prevalent during his relationship with Sylvie. Because it's only around Sylvie where he starts to sober up. He doesn't do drugs, he doesn't drink, and he doesn't smoke anymore. And it is only around her that he does that. Even at the wedding, when he goes into the maze with Emma, he starts lighting a cigarette and he smokes because it's a special occasion. But it's also because Sylvie isn't there. And at that moment in time, Sylvie is the person he's in a relationship with. She is the person he is closest to. She is the person he is anchoring everything he is to. And when him and Emma finally get together for those few years that they are together, they have this contentedness, they have this bliss that they're in, and they are equally happy. And Dexter doesn't have to go to the drugs, and he doesn't need to, because he's got Emma. And then he loses Emma, and he loses himself, and in the book, it is Maddie who stabilizes him. And even when Dexter tries to be alone and tries to go through Emma's things, he has to call Maddie because he feels himself losing control. And so he calls her, and just the sound of her voice calms him down. And though it is heavily implied that time has helped him heal a bit, as well as his father helping him drag him out of it and basically just be a comfort to him, like they showed in the show, it is also Maddie. And Dexter is essentially doing the exact same thing that he's been doing throughout the entire book, and he is hinging everything that he is on this other person. Which is why I think the change in the show is so brilliant. Because the relationship with Maddie isn't there. What is there is Dexter getting support from all his friends and family. And it wasn't until I watched the show that I realized how much that was lacking in the end of the book. Because yes, Sylvie does help him, and she takes him to his dad, and his dad is there, but that's it. Did they not have any other friends? And I could do a whole other video on why I think that Tilly's character was made so much better in the show than in the book, because there was such a disservice done to her character, and almost in a confusing way. But giving Dexter a support group made up of friends and family who love him and support him meant that he wasn't relying on a single relationship anymore. It shows that he's able to heal by himself and with time and with the community of people around him. And maybe Dexter and Maddie do get together in the end, but I like that they didn't have it happen, and I like that they didn't have it happen so quickly after Emma's death. Because yes, for Dexter it's been 1.5 years, but for us as the reader, it's been 5 pages. We wait 400 pages for Emma and Dexter to get together, and then she dies, and then like 10 pages later, he's with someone else. And so it does feel slightly jarring to read. So I think the show just gave us such a better finish to his character arc. He's no longer relying on his relationships with the women he's closest to in his life to guide him and to stabilize him. He's got his friends and his daughter and his community and his father, and he's got himself. And this isn't to say there's a right way to grieve or a right way to get over the love of your life's death. And if someone truly does find solace in another relationship after their partner dies, then that is completely okay and really good. But I just think for Dexter's character arc within the story, he was someone who based his entire being and his entire stability on his relationships. And so for his arc to be complete, he needed to stop doing that. So thanks, Netflix version of One Day, because you made me cry a lot more than I did in the book, because the ending felt a lot more sentimental and grounded and just well-rounded and more in true with the story and Dexter's character.